We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
Mike, we let the people down. We did not cover the Jacksonville Jaguars going against the Houston Texans in week 1. We missed it in our week 1 review. It was the first time we did a full week 1 review on this podcast. So you got to get your lumps here. But can we give the people what they want and actually review this Jags-Texans game?
Yes, let us, please.
Start with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, I said this, I think, on another podcast or radio hit, whatever it was. Those 3 interceptions were ugly. Some spotty accuracy. He had the highest percentage of uncatchable, inaccurate passes of any quarterback in week 1. But what you did see was the high end. You saw these flashy throws, these darts on his tape that you saw at Clemson. And the reason why he's still number 1 overall pick, best quarterback drafted in this class, but some spottiness that maybe people didn't expect to start.
Yeah, I mean, he had an all-time bad interception. It was as if the linebacker he threw to, gosh, I can't remember exactly who it was, as if he thought he was an offensive player. Like, he's looking to his right, comes back to Laviska Shenault, who's running kind of a seam post against zone coverage. And I don't know if he thought it was supposed to be a dig or what, but he throws a line drive into a linebacker's chest where Laviska Shenault's 10 yards further downfield than where the ball was caught. Like, it was just pretty abysmal. That was kind of, I don't want to say a microcosm of his game, but it was just things he did that he never did at Clemson that are just an adjustment. The comfort level, not what we saw. And it's going to get better. But you still saw the high-end plays, the seam touchdown, the kind of, what was it, the corner route, or no, actually it wasn't the corner route, but just like the deep sideline route on the left sideline that was just arm talent for days. That I do think he'll be fine. But it was still a rocky start out the game.
Anyone coming out of this game thinking that Trevor Lawrence won't be fine, I think it's definitely overreacting. But will this Jags supporting cast be fine? Offensive line did not look good. Defense got shredded by Tyrod Taylor and a bunch of replacement, like no names that we talk about. The Houston Texans were the butt of every single joke in the offseason. At one point, I think DraftKings had their win total like 2.5 or something ludicrous like that. They go out and win this game. I don't know. I do think that this Jaguars defense fell flat. And offensively, I would argue Urban Meyer and company did not put him, Trevor Lawrence, even though he had some concerns himself, did not put him in a position to succeed. At what point do you see this Jaguars supporting cast turning around?
That's the tough part. You're relying on a lot of sort of young guys taking big next steps that, Caleb Chason comes out 49.7 pass rushing grade. That's in year 2. Obviously, he's going up against Larry Tunsil a lot, but you would like a little bit better than that. CJ Henderson comes out 55.5 coverage grade in year 2. Your 2 first-rounders from last year, not playing like first-rounders just yet, or not playing like the guys you thought they were when you drafted them, 9th and 20th overall. So that, to me, is the concerning part, is that you're relying on so much youth, and they had such like a rotation. I feel like at every single position, they were kind of rotating guys in and out, whether it was safety, defensive line, and not a lot of guys really making an impact.
I'm not buying the Houston Texans. I'll say that. I don't think they're going to,
this is not
shock the world and win the AFC South. They still have the worst odds to win the AFC South of any team in that division. But I do think, against bad football teams, they're going to give them a run for their money because they have a lot of veteran talent. There's a lot of veteran players on this team, regardless of whether you like the talent or not. It's not a lot of youth. It's not a lot of inexperience. And I think that's going to show up against teams that are inexperienced, like the Jags.
Yeah, week 1 last year, the Jaguars beat the Colts. Shit happens. Yeah, Bad teams. The Jets beat who they beat last year. They beat a good team last year towards the end of the season. Gosh, name escaped me. But sometimes shit happens. And
the Browns, right?
Was it the Browns?
I'm not sure. I'll look it up.
Can't remember. But actually ended up being 2 winning teams by the end of the year. So that random things happen in the NFL to me that kind of is what this felt like right out the gate.
Random things. I mean, it wasn't all that random to me. I was the one who cashed in on the Houston Texans money line. I saw it coming. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump now to the NFL Week 2 preview. We're going to break down some storylines for every game, and then you're going to give your deciding factor and picks for this game against the spread. The Giants are going to Washington to play Taylor Heineke.
They beat the Rams and the Browns last year. The Jets did. That's who they beat.
Rams and the Browns last year for the New York Jets. Randomness, as you would say. Giants, Daniel Jones is facing off against the Taylor Heineke of the Washington football team. At home, football team favored by 3. Where I'd like to start is honestly a high-level question on the New York Giants. How worried should we be about Daniel Jones?
I mean, you should have been worried the day they drafted him, honestly. Not to really hammer home this point, but when you're out on a limb as an evaluator, number 6 overall, when every independent media, whatever, is saying this guy's not a 6th overall pick. Like some people were saying maybe back into the first round, that's where they take him. But when you're out on a limb saying 6th overall pick, you should be a little wary when you disagree with the consensus. And then he's shown nothing in 2 years, in my opinion, to change that. So I do think that you should be. And the more worrisome thing is that you spend all this money on Kelly Galladay. You use a first-round pick on a wide receiver. Used a first-round pick on a tackle last year. Now, Andrew Thomas actually played really well last week. But the situation hasn't gotten to the point where it's incrementally better, where you have what looks like a good situation for him to succeed. He was still under pressure a ton in this past week's game.
Even with Andrew Thomas playing well.
Yes. So, I mean, Nate Solder looks like he's not a right tackle. We're talking about the storyline of the season is left tackles flipping to the right side and looking like dog shit. It's happened to a lot of guys.
Alejandro Villanueva, Penei Sewell in the preseason. Now you have Nate Solder.
A lot of guys just don't look like they belong on the opposite side of the line. And so I would be very worried because you're going to talk yourself into saying we still don't know. And that's a scary place to be heading into year 4.
I couldn't agree with you more. 49 combined fumbles and interceptions for Daniel Jones since 2019, the most of any quarterback in the NFL. And I say this a lot too. I think he looks good in games except for these critical mistakes, but he has these critical mistakes more than any quarterback in the NFL. He looks good play to play, and then it's every time you're coming out, it's like, man, if he just didn't have this play or this play, 2 or 3 plays a game, we're like, fuck, what the hell?
Yeah.
That's Daniel Jones for you, though. That's what's been the problem with Daniel Jones. I'm going to double down. I didn't have this one on our prep, but I want to come to you because you mentioned the first-round wide receiver. Where are you at on the panic button with Kadarius Toney? Guy can't see the field. Few touches in this game. I think he had an end around that went for a 5-yard loss. He can't find a target. He's playing on special teams.
Well, so what? He had COVID and then some nagging injury. I'm not too worried because he was always going to be sort of a project. I said he was a guy who you need to develop rapport with. There's a reason why he didn't produce until his senior year at Florida is because kind of the way he runs routes, who he is as a playmaker, is not your crisp, by the book, run a slant at 5 yards that calls for a slant at 5 yards sort of thing. So that was always going to take time for him. But to me, it's more, you never should have drafted him for Jason Garrett's offense then. That's Jason Garrett's offense. Jason Garrett's, I never trusted Jason Garrett to utilize a playmaker like that in a creative fashion. So that to me was the scarier thing when you did draft him.
Moving to the Washington football team, Ryan Fitzpatrick hurt in this game. Taylor Heineke is going to start for the foreseeable future. How big of a drop-off is it from Ryan Fitzpatrick to Taylor Heineke? And do you see with this quarterback injury, and honestly, I would call an underwhelming performance, they were favored over the Chargers in week 1, them playing themselves into some quarterback jersey swaps in the 2022 NFL draft? Do you see that happening now that they're hurt at quarterback?
No, I think Heineke's still, he's not like a top 30. Obviously, he's a downgrade from Fitzpatrick, I would say. Looked awesome, obviously, in the playoffs last year, but that is one game. Case Keenum has had games. He's looked awesome. So I'm not ready to crown him, but I will say coming in halfway through a game against the Los Angeles Chargers defense is not a position to succeed. So I will hold off further judgment until how I see how he does with a full week practice against the Giants.
I had a third storyline prep for this game, but it's actually your deciding factor in this one. What's the deciding factor?
I mean, it's Nate Solder going up against Montez Sweat. That if he plays basically the way he did last week, I will predict not just one Daniel Jones fumble, multiple Daniel Jones fumbles. And it's because he is maybe the most oblivious to pressure quarterback in the NFL. He toes that line of you never know. It's like, is he actually, impervious to pressure and not feeling it? Or does he not even know it's there at all? or like not reacting to it, or is he just not even know it's there at all? He's way in the not even knows it's there at all sort of line, and that's why he's led the league in fumbles both years. So I think that this game, that's going to be the deciding factor.
I think this entire offensive line too, though. I mean, obviously you can highlight the Nate Solder matchup, but I don't think this interior is not good either. And the Washington football team have dogs on the interior. Jonathan Allen was throwing people out the club this past week, even though they obviously said, like I said, underperformed. I think this Washington defensive line is going to eat the Giants offensive line alive, and that's going to be enough for them to win this game. I'm picking them to cover -3.
I will agree with you there.
Thursday Night Football. We'll see how it goes. We will see how it goes. On to the Las Vegas Raiders going to Pittsburgh and getting 5.5 points against the Steelers. I'm going to say my pick now. We'll get to the announcement. I'm taking our Raiders here. Raiders plus 5.5. And where it starts is this pass rush. The Las Vegas Raiders pass rush, is it legit? Or are the Baltimore Ravens off the tackles giving them false confidence? Because they looked otherworldly. Max Crosby, Nick Ngakoue, and even Carl Nassib were getting after the Ravens offensive tackles. Can this pass rush actually hold up against what is another bad offensive line? Like this Steelers offensive line is terrible.
Yeah.
Are they going to hold up? And I think this could help them cover the number 5.5.
Well, so no Yannick Ngakoue in this one.
True.
He's hurt. With a hamstring. So that at least alleviates, the Dan Moore on the left tackle side. Now you do have Chukwuma Okorafor going up against Max Crosby.
He goes by Chooks.
Okay, Chooks Okorafor going up against Max Crosby on the right side. That's, advantage
Crosby.
Las Vegas. But at the same time, you have Alex Leatherwood going up against TJ Watt. Advantage Watt. And in a bigger way, in my opinion. I still have Pittsburgh winning this. 5.5 is a lot. Mm-hmm. But I do just think if you're talking overmatched matchups, I think the Raiders offensive line will be more overmatched than the Steelers offensive line. But I think it's going to be low scoring because there's not going to be time for either of these offenses to operate. Just with how, the Steelers did not put up a lot of points this past week against the Buffalo Bills defense that they themselves aren't particularly adept at rushing the passer. So I kind of want to lean Pittsburgh even with the points too.
Really?
But I'll say Pittsburgh to win. No pick on the points there.
No pick on the points. I do think that this Raiders pass rush will hit home. I also think Big Ben, two of the lowest graded quarterbacks in week 1. Aaron Rodgers, I think, came in at last. And Big Ben was right there with him. He did not look good in this game. And offensively, Steelers offensive line versus the Raiders defensive line, I think is a loss. I think the receivers are going to beat up on what is a bad secondary, but improve from last year. But is Big Ben's inability to, play at even an above average level going to keep the Steelers from being legit this year? They just had a big upset win over Buffalo. If they win this one, they're 2-0. Are we going to talk ourselves into the Steelers again on having the best defensive line in football and Big Ben just being propped up by Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, etc.?
Yeah, they will. He's going to be, because this defense is still, it's probably still the best defense in football. If not one, it's two. And it's because, Cam Sutton looked very good at cornerback in his first year, really, as a full-time starter out there. As good as the Raiders looked, down the stretch when sort of the chips were on the line. Shit, I don't even know what the analogy I was going to. I don't know what analogy I was going at there, but for the first 3 quarters of that game, it didn't. Yeah. They were stifled by the pressure that the Ravens are bringing at them. Steelers are going to be doing the same.
Yeah, this is going to be a very difficult defense to go against for a Derek Carr that looked really good, specifically in the fourth quarter and overtime, but their receivers were not creating separation to start that game. And their offensive line, outside of, I'd say, Colton Miller, was struggling to protect up front. Calais Campbell was eating Andre James' lunch. Or was it Nick Martin at center? I don't know. But regardless, whoever was starting there at center for the Raiders was not playing well. And at right tackle, Leatherwood got beat for a handful of pressures as well. I like the Raiders still to cover. I think their offense is better. I think I would pick the Raiders offense over the Steelers offense because I think they have a better quarterback in this matchup. Better quarterback getting points. I'm going to get them covering this number. And I might even sprinkle a little on the money line for my dad back home. Go Raiders, Raider Nation. All right, on to Bills at Dolphins. Dolphins at home, 3.5-point dogs against the Buffalo Bills. Biggest takeaway from Josh Allen's week 1 performance. He was spotty from an accuracy perspective. I think he earned a sub 65.0 grade. Do you expect him to bounce back in a big way against Miami? Or, where do you see him going into week 2?
My biggest takeaway was, we just talked about it, was the Steelers defense. Mm-hmm. It's not that Josh Allen is all of a sudden year 1, year 2 Josh Allen. It's that the Steelers defense is still awesome. Steelers defense. Deion Dawkins was getting absolutely worked in that game. So I'm not too worried. Like that shit happens. Like, it's tough to beat good defenses when they're firing on all cylinders. So that to me is the biggest takeaway. Now, Miami's defense, also very good. And for me, the deciding factor in here, Will Fuller. Come back.
Is he back?
Back this game. He was suspended week 1. That was it. He's back. And I reserve the right, though, if they end up benching Liam Eichenberg for Austin Jackson, I reserve the right to switch this pick.
Okay.
But if Liam Eichenberg's playing left tackle, who looks solid out the gate at newsflash, the position he played in college, I think Miami covers 3.5 at home.
Can we talk a little bit more about Tua Tagovailoa? I think there was a lot of hype about him being a bounce-back candidate in week 1 against a very good Patriots defense, coached by Bill Belichick. I thought was up and down. Had a really ugly interception in that game.
What was that?
It was terrible. It was terrible.
Yeah.
Tua, I asked you the same question about Josh Allen, your takeaways going against good defense. For Tua, is it the same reasons for his bad performance in week 1, or are you concerned at all about that week 1 performance?
I'm a little concerned, for sure, because that was kind of like the boneheaded plays, like that's kind of what he's known. I don't want to say known for, but you want those to go away at some point.
Yeah,
those have to just, hey, I'm outside the pocket, heave it up for grabs. Like, that's rookie stuff. That is the stuff that should have been gone by now. So yeah, that was a little worrisome, and it's not like he was under tremendous heat. Like, it wasn't. It was an untenable situation for him to be succeeding in. He just had, when it did come, he was just out to lunch.
I also, we didn't talk a lot about this on the review episode, but Jalen Waddle looked good. Handful of really insane catches in that game. Looks fast.
That's what I'm saying. Waddle, Fuller, and Devontae Parker is just
Gesicki.
You can get the ball out of your hands quickly when you have those sort of playmakers, because there's going to be space underneath. Mm-hmm. You cannot play Buffalo Bills. You got Levi Wallace, who runs a 4.62. Can't play him on the ball. Like, you can't play him tight to the line of scrimmage. He is going to have to give up space to those kind of guys. Mm-hmm. So, like, you're going to see a lot of quick passes, and then kind of how the Seahawks operate, where it's like short underneath, while you sleep, and then bam, that thing's going over the top. If you don't speed, you're not going to be able to hang. So that to me is how I would work against this Bills D.
So you're picking Miami to win and then obviously to cover the 3.5.
Yes, sir.
I am taking Buffalo to win and cover the 3.5. I like the better quarterback in this matchup. I think I see against a not as good defense in Miami, Josh Allen bouncing back and this Buffalo team taking a win. All right, Saints at Panthers. This was an interesting line. I think this is one of the more egregious lines we have. The Saints, after what was a very convincing win over the Green Bay Packers, are only 3-point favorites on the road against Sam Darnold and the Carolina Panthers. I think the Saints team goes in and dominates against the Carolina Panthers. This is one of my favorite bets of the week. I'm taking Saints -3. Saints defensive line is going to eat the Panthers lunch. And their offensive line against, I would say, a better defensive line than what the Panthers have, was holding up so well for Jameis Winston. I think Kamara has a big game. I think this is an easy win for the Saints. I'm a big fan. Let's start with this storyline, though, before you give me your pick. Do you think this Jameis Winston offense is legit? Right now, the Saints win total is up to 10.5 on DraftKings. Their odds to make the playoffs is -175. People are backing the New Orleans Saints. Are you on board?
Yeah. I mean, you got a tier 1 of offensive lines in the NFL, and it's the Browns and the Saints. That's it for my money. Like, those two offensive lines will not be overmatched at any point. Like, those two offensive lines can hold up against anybody when healthy. Obviously, the Browns suffered injury to Jedrick Wills, but Saints offensive line should be healthy. The scary thing, so like that, your ground game's going to work when you got Alvin Kamara running, and you're going to have time for Jameis. It's not going to look like what it looked like for him in Tampa Bay. Now, that being said, I would feel a lot better about Saints -3 if Marcus Davenport was playing in this game and if Marshawn Lattimore were playing in this game. Both are going to be out, and especially Marcus Davenport, given what the Panthers are throwing out of left tackle. So I still like the Saints -3, but not quite as much as I did prior to that.
Maybe it's not the bludgeoning then. Are you still concerned at all about the Saints receivers? I know we talked about them having maybe the worst receiver core in the league with Michael Thomas out. Showed up against Green Bay. Is there still as big of a concern with the Saints wideouts?
Yes. I do think that's like they benefited greatly from the fact that they were getting 5 a pop on the ground every single time. They were getting whatever they wanted. And then screen game was working. Like, they were getting anything they wanted underneath. They didn't have to hit over the top more than, I think, once really in that game that they went. So I would say that's a concern. But I don't think the Panthers defense is quite to the level, though, in their front seven yet to hold up in the run game.
A lot of people are hyping up Sam Darnold. We didn't talk a ton about the Carolina Panthers and maybe why we're dogging him, but I don't think his performance was all that impressive in week 1. I think I'd like to see more from him, but he's in a good position from a receiving corps perspective. Has one of the best receiving corps in the NFL, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Terrace Marshall. If he can get time to hit those people open.
Big if.
That's the thing. It's if he can get time to get those people, let those people get open. I think this offense can put up points, but this offensive line is one of the worst in the NFL. And I think that's going to limit Sam Darnold in addition to Darnold being Darnold and not still being, a top 20, top 15 quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah. I have bigger worries about the Saints issues than I do about Mark Davenport and Marshawn Lattimore being out.
Fair enough. You're a deciding factor in this game.
LASIK Jameis, baby. That's the deciding factor. Deciding factor all year long, baby. Different type of dude. Not just LASIK Jameis, but reeled in Jameis. Like Jameis that doesn't have to drop back and go long every single time. His lowest average at the target in his career was 10.9 yards down the field. In week 1, it was 8.5.
Still high, but better.
Yes, like a different kind of guy right out the gate. And it's more just saying that back in Tampa Bay, if they were going to win, it was all on Jameis. It was, hey, he has to attack. He has to go downfield. He has to take these chances with the football for them to win. Now it's like, hey, you can like play within, you can hit these screens. You can hand it off to the running back. You can do all this stuff. And then you'll only have to hit those, deep posts, those, the deep corners, whatever, 3 or 4 times a game and we win. It's not going to be all on you. And so I think you're going to see a much more reserved. You're not going to see him taking the bad chances that he consistently did with Tampa Bay because it's not going to be completely on him and that arm to push down the field.
We're talking about all these bets. Might as well bring it up now. Week 1 may be over, but this season's just getting started at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. To kick off week 2, DraftKings is giving new customers $200 in free bets instantly when they bet $1 on any football game. Listen up because you don't want to miss this. Head to DraftKings Sportsbook app now and place a $1 bet on any week 2 game to receive $200 in free bets instantly. If Sportsbook is not yet available in your state, DraftKings still has huge cash prizes up for grabs all season long with their daily fantasy contest. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code PFF to receive $200 in free bets when you place a $1 bet on any football game. That's promo code PFF this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 years or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit, $1 required. 1 per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. We are going to be driving through Pennsylvania this weekend as we head to Auburn at Penn State, the whiteout.
Literally staying in Pennsylvania.
We're staying in Pennsylvania. I'm going to be hammering DraftKings Sportsbook, and I'm going to start with that Saints game over the Sam Darnold-led Carolina Panthers. Texans at Browns.
Do it.
We will probably move quickly here. Browns are favored by 12.5. I like the Browns to cover this number. As good as the Texans looked against the Jacksonville Jaguars, I don't think they show up the same way. And there are just too many mismatches in this game. Browns defensive line versus Texans offensive line, their secondary versus receiving core. The Browns offense is going to roll. I could see this one being a blowout, especially at home after a disappointing loss. I think they're going to be biting back in Cleveland.
Yes, I have to agree. I think this offensive line, like Browns offensive line going up against that Texans D line is just, it's going to be a bloodbath. It really is. I don't see how. And they're so good. Kevin Stefanski's so good about scheming around that advantage when he knows he has it and basically varying up that run game to put them in the best position possible to just control the entire game. So, yeah, I think, like you said, not a lot to dissect here. 12.5. Give me those points. I'll take the Browns.
Before we jump to the next game, I had this note in here. Baker Mayfield, I thought, looked incredible against Kansas City Chiefs. And there was a late game collapse. There was a late game collapse towards the back end. But still, I thought looked really good to start. And it was honestly one of the best games he played through the first 3 quarters. Where are you at right now with Baker Mayfield? Where do you see him among all quarterbacks in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just like he's not solely. Obviously, it helps to have that talented offensive line. Helps to have that, to not be under pressure. But you could objectively look at the throws he made. The one to Anthony Schwartz was right on the money. Schwartz should have not fallen down. It should have been a touchdown. The one, the go route to, DPJ, was it?
I think so.
That was right on, like that, just perfect placement. Like it wasn't just that he had guys open. He's putting the ball exactly where it needs to be. Like his accuracy is still very high level for having good situation. Like when things aren't going to be great, and now he doesn't have great separators at receiver right now with Odell Beckham out. He still can produce on his own, I think.
Rams at Colts. Colts are 3.5-point dogs at home, and honestly, I'm all in on Los Angeles covering this 3.5 number. Matthew Stafford, highest graded quarterback off play action in week 1. I think this offense is sustainable, even with the losses they've had at running back. Like, this is going to be one of the better offenses in the NFC, and you continue to see time and time again, these stars on the Rams defense, even without Brandon Staley, are stars. Jalen Ramsey continues to look like the best quarterback in the NFL. Aaron Donald gives that defensive line an edge against any offensive line, even going against Quentin Nelson and company. I think this Rams team rolls against Indy.
Yeah, I did my panic meter for the teams that really kind of looked flat week 1. And obviously the Colts, yeah, they lost by 11 when it was all said, or 12 when it was all said and done. But they looked flat. Like they were down 28-10 in the fourth quarter, could not move the ball offensively. And they were third on the list. Falcons and Bears, the only teams ahead of them in terms of teams that I'm just like, damn, it could go south this year. The Colts, with that, until Eric Fisher is there, it's going to be ugly with Julian Davenport. And now the thing is, the strength of your offensive line there is your interior. But I don't care who you are, you're still not blocking Aaron Donald. Like it's still not. He's still going to be beaten up on Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly. Those get Mark Lewinsky. So I do think that Carson Wentz might be under even more pressure than he was last week, and that is a scary proposition with how that looked. So yeah, I'm going to lean with you there and go Rams as well.
This is a very tough game for a Colts team with a lot, like you said, with the panic button within reach to bounce back because it's going against such a good defense, and this offense looks like a juggernaut. And I think even as good as this Colts defense is, I think they're going to struggle, man. I think Matthew Stafford's going to roll it up.
I do think if there's a silver lining, or like what I would be hopeful for as the Colts, is that, yeah, Rams looked good last week. They're playing a Bears team that hapless in the secondary at this point. Colts have a few more options. So I do think that the Rams offense won't look as sweet as it did quite last week.
Hard to look sweeter. This is true. Speaking of the Bears, the Bengals go to Chicago, coming off a big win. I was walking by homeless people outside my apartment. They were screaming "Hoo-day" in my face. They were excited for this Bengals team, baby. No, all smiles here in Queen City. They are 2.5-point dogs to the Chicago Bears. Let's start with Joe Burrow. This offense ranked 20th in EPA per play in week 1, and I didn't think Joe Burrow looked all that impressive outside of maybe that throw to Jamar Chase. A low average depth to target, a very conservative offense overall. Can they improve enough to where they're favored in some of these games? Favored against one of the worst defenses in the NFL? Like, or are the Cincinnati Bengals going to be consistently like trying to punch up and play as big dogs?
Yeah, I mean, their offensive line, like the interior, still looked like an issue. Like I said, going in, it was going to be an issue. It still looked like a problem. And against the Bears defense, it's not going to get any easier, So I do think every game is going to kind of be a dogfight offensively for them. Like it's going to be sack, maybe big play, because Jamar Chase and T. Higgins can get open, man. Those guys were very impressive week 1. One of the biggest sort of eye openers was just how those guys can basically get open at will, but they got to go more, like I said, with the Titans kind of on the review show. You got to get more max protect and let those guys go to work. Give those guys the opportunities, because trying to get CJ Uzomah out in a route ain't going to do much for you. Trying to get Drew Sample, Joe Mixon out in a route, like, sure, that can be a 5-6 yard game. You need explosive plays with how this offense is set up right now, and that's going to be T. Higgins, Jamar Chase.
Am I crazy to think that this Bengals defense looked good in week 1? I mean, we talked a lot about the defensive line on the review show, but I think this Bengals defense, specifically up front, we talked about BJ Hill, DJ Reader, like I think they're going to hold their own against Chicago. And I think it's going to continue to be not one of the worst defenses in the NFL. I think Lou Anarumo, maybe not coaching his way to saving his job, but I think they have enough talent now. Secondary's depleted. That's scary. But up front, I think they're going to create pressure and stop the run. I think that's enough for this Bengals defense. Last thing I'll have here.
The BJ Hill trade was an absolute fleecing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure if fleecing Giants were in desperation. So to get a starting defensive tackle, not just a quality starting defensive tackle for a backup offensive lineman is an absolute W. 10 times out of 10, especially with the way this Bengals defensive tackle group looked last year. So a different unit stepping in 2021 than what we saw in 2020.
This Bears defense, horrendous. Offense with Andy Dalton, without hope. Bottom 3 offensive line. Right now on DraftKings, they're projected win total.
Say how you really feel right now.
Number 1 overall pick odds. They don't have it on DraftKings. I looked. They're projected right now at 6.5 wins. I'm kind of leaning the under. Is this Bears team, where would you put them right now? Where's your power ranking for the Bears in the NFL? Oof. Bottom 5? This is a bad Bears team. The defense is not even a strength anymore. And I like Khalil Mack and I like Akeem Hicks, but still.
Yeah. Bottom 8 is your floor, or your bet. The worst you could do. 25th in the NFL is about as high as you could feasibly have them right now, with as long as you're starting Andy Dalton.
Yeah. I'm taking the Bengals plus 2.5. And I think they win this game. I think they win this game.
Yeah.
I think they win this game.
Much here.
All right. We are. That's true. It's terrible for content.
This next one,
we got different. 49ers at Eagles. 49ers 3.5-point dogs on the road at Philly. I praised the Eagles after beating to a pulp this Falcons team, specifically in the trenches. That's where they looked most spectacular. Like their defensive line and offensive line outright dominated against Atlanta. And I think, do you see that same level of dominance in the trenches against San Francisco?
No, they're not going to dominate, but that's the 49ers game too. Like it is going to be an equal footing there on both sides of the line. Like they're not going to, can't really give, like that's how the 49ers win football games, is they run the ball at will against you and they are going to get pressure anytime it's a passing situation. I don't think that's going to be the case in this one.
Really?
So then, go lean to the supporting cast. 49ers secondary is tough without Jason Barrett.
And Emmanuel Mosley's battling a knee injury.
Yeah. So they tried to call the Vikings to get Cam Dantzler, was the report today. The Vikings said, go kick rocks. That's how bad it's getting over there in San Francisco. They're begging people for help, probably in Richard Sherman's DMs as we speak right now. But with that in mind, like I like the Eagles in this one. I think they're evenly matched.
Eagles to win and cover?
Scrimmage. I like the Eagles. Well, definitely to cover. I'll say to win, too. They're at home.
Wow. Eagles to win and cover. You're bigger on the Eagles than I was, and I was praising them on the review show.
I hand up. I underestimated him going into the season.
I have the San Francisco 49ers winning and covering the 3.5. I think they are the better football team, and I think, yes, it's on the road. Yes, it's the cross-country trip. But I think they have the better quarterback in this one. I think Jimmy G looked good in week 1. I think this offense rolls. I think offensively, they're not going to get dominated in the trenches. And defensively, they won't either. So I think that'll be enough for them to win this game and cover the number. All right. Broncos at Jaguars. Jaguars at home. 6-point dogs against Teddy Two Gloves and the Denver Broncos. How far they've fallen after being 3-point favorites on the road against Houston. I'll be honest with you, Mike. We can get in the analysis. I like Denver -6, dude. I think Denver wins this game handedly. They win by a touchdown again. And the reason, this defense looked phenomenal in week 1. Von Miller looked like vintage Von Miller. Right now, DraftKings has their projection at 10.5 wins for the Broncos. Broncos are projected at 10.5 wins after a week 1 win, -120 to make the playoffs. And I think it's that good. Teddy Two Gloves looked fantastic, specifically out of structure, which is better than what anyone gave him credit for. I think they're going to exceed expectations. Judy injury obviously sucks, but I still think they have enough to win.
So when I said earlier, I was like, the Steelers are at least 1 or 2 in the NFL. The first team that came to mind of who could be 1 was this Denver Broncos team, just with the talent there. And it's not even just Von Miller and Bradley Chubb along that defensive line. Shelby Harris, one of the most underrated defensive tackles in the league. Draymond Jones has been improving each year, also very underrated at this point. Like they are every single level fairly loaded. And you have, one of our favorite defense coordinators in Vic Fangio, obviously calling the plays there. So yeah, I think this is going to be about as difficult as it gets. Like I said, maybe outside of Pittsburgh test for Trevor Lawrence. And we saw the opposite side of the ball for the Jaguars. I don't like them. I just don't like them. I don't like what they're doing defensively. I'll just say it. I don't love the way their talent's developing either. So yeah, give me Denver -6.
Denver -6 on the win. Road. Vic Fangio is going to be in his bag against Trevor Lawrence in this Jaguars offense. How the hell does Trevor Lawrence and this Jags offense right the ship, or can they even in year 1 with Urban Meyer?
Like I said, I think the talent's there, and it didn't look awful. Like besides the picks, I don't think Trevor Lawrence was really. I didn't think it was a bad start. Like if you throw away those 2 picks, and it's like, okay, I'll throw away the 2 picks. But I thought he was
3 picks.
Excuse me, 3 picks. But the 2 really bad ones. If you throw away those 2 ones, I didn't think it was awful. But obviously 2 picks is very indicative, but he had to throw the whole game. Basically, it was all on him. That's always going to be a tough scenario out the gate. So I do think it will improve there for him.
Patriots at Jets. Jets at home, 6-point dogs to the visiting New England Patriots. Mac Jones in week one won Rookie of the Week for PFF. Was an absolute stud. And I love Bill Belichick doing this. In the preseason, the New England Patriots ran the lowest percentage of 12 personnel of any team. Mm-hmm. In week one, the highest percentage in the NFL. Flip the script. They bring Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry on. I thought they looked very good. 16th in EPA per play for a rookie quarterback out of the gate against a very good Brian Flores-led defense. I like how they looked. Yeah. I know they didn't come away with the win. I thought there were a lot of positives there. Mac Jones, I like them winning this one. I got them beating the Jets and covering -6.
Oh man, I hate betting this one because of the variance that is two rookie quarterbacks going up against each other, you know? And I do love the Patriots offensive line, but I also love the Jets defensive line's ability to stop the run. Mm-hmm. So this one's tough. I think I'd like the Patriots to win. I don't think I'd like the Patriots to cover 6. I think it could still be a close game, obviously, with the Jets at home. So it would feel better if they had the big ticket playing left tackle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll say Patriots to win, Jets to cover.
I think Zach Wilson is going to be struggling big time behind this offensive line.
But Bill Belichick, I mean, it's two great defensive minds going against each other. It's like, do you think Belichick's going to scheme a better game plan for Zach Wilson, or do you think Salah's going to scheme a better game plan for Mac Jones? It's like I think that is in and of itself is almost a wash, but obviously the Patriots probably have better personnel on that side of the ball.
A couple more questions here. The Jets defense didn't look terrible in week one.
No, yeah.
I think a lot of people were writing them off. I think I've heard so many analysts say, can you name a Jets corner? Can you name a Jets corner? Like their defensive line is good, even without Carl Lawson. And in the secondary, some of those guys showed up. Like they weren't completely embarrassed on the back end. Last one on this one. Right now, New England Patriots are plus 125 to make the playoffs, and their win total's at 8.5 wins. Where are you sitting on those two bets?
8.5, over. We said that to start the year. I still think Bill Belichick doesn't lose a lot of games. You know, there's a reason he's Bill Belichick. I don't care that he doesn't have Brady anymore. He still knows what the hell he's doing.
Before we get to the Falcons at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, going to read off our favorite, not our favorite, but one of our favorite sponsors here, the new partners to Tailgate, Home Field Apparel. Home Field Apparel is a premium collegiate brand out of Indianapolis, incredibly comfortable, officially licensed apparel with vintage college designs. Home Field is in the middle of Big News Saturday, Season 2, where they launch a new school collection every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern for 16 weeks straight. They just recently released Georgia, North Carolina, and Florida, and they'll be releasing West Virginia this Saturday. We're going to West Virginia this year. We might have to cop some gear. And if we do, we're going to use promo code PFF for 15% off your first purchase at homefieldapparel.com. That is promo code PFF for 15% off. Get ready for college football tailgate season. The Bucs are favored by 12.5 points against a very bad, obviously, Falcons team. I like the Bucs to cover. I think they might blow this team out. And they're at home. Only 12.5 point favorites home. The Buccaneers were like 9.5, 10-point favorites over the Cowboys. Like, I am all in on this line. I love this line. I think the Bucs cover this number, and it's not even close.
Yeah, I love the line too for the Bucs. It's just what recourse do the Falcons have to stop this Bucs offense? You know, we've talked about how that's so difficult with all they throw at you. You have to be able to take something away. What can they take away? Is the problem I see going in this game. And I'll say it now. Tom Brady might not have a pressure drop back. If he gets pressured 5 times in this game, I'll be floored. Just having watched that Falcons defensive line last week. So when that's the case, yikes. Like, yikes.
I don't know how this line's only 12.5. And I know it's scary in the NFL for lines to get bigger than 14 in these things. But still, like,
but I think the NFL's trending towards that not being as big a, like, people put up points now.
Yeah.
And when you can't stop teams, like teams.
If this Bucs team doesn't cover 12.5, I'm not even saying it doesn't win. If they don't cover 12.5, something disastrous is going to have to happen. Because, like, I don't know where the Falcons show up here. I don't know where the Falcons show up. Like, they're going to have to look like a completely different team than they did against the Philadelphia Eagles. Like a completely different team. Mm-hmm. The offensive line, defensive line, both horrible. Where do you think this Falcons team can right the ship? Defensively, I don't see them crawling up too much. Is it this Kyle Pitts, Calvin Ridley, Matt Ryan connection? Because that's all anyone's talking about in the fantasy community. Does that help them right the ship? Does that help them keep in games? Or is that not even enough?
No, I mean, I really don't think it is. Obviously, that'd be nice to see. going forward. It'd be room for encouragement, but I still don't think there's any. They were number one on my panic meter for, like I said, after week one. There's just a lot of issues on this roster.
I think they're number one in everyone's panic meter. The fact that line is at 12.5. All right, Vikings at Cardinals. This is one game that I think I said this for the Denver Broncos-Giants game last week. I don't think I want to bet this game. I think Cardinals are favored by 4 at home. If I had to bet it, I'd take the Cardinals -4 with how good they looked, specifically how good Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins looked and how bad the Vikings looked. But again, you rightfully so hyped up the Minnesota Vikings as this, high-performing team, a team that should go over their win total, should make the playoffs. Should we go that far off our priors before we go into this game?
That's why I'm picking the Vikings in this one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because I think it swung before the season, this line where it would a pick 'em. I would have guessed something like a pick. And for 1 week to swing it that far when it's not like a big injury occurred. It's not like there's a player that's really out that would be impactful. I think they are kind of the teams we thought. One team played really well week one team kind of played like ass. And so I'll still lean Minnesota here. I thought they were the better team going into the year. I do worry that Christian Darrisaw may not play this year with that core muscle, whatever that's been nagging him since a nagging injury since January of this year, and that the offensive line didn't look a lick improved from last year. That's still worrisome, but I'll just say Patrick Peterson revenge game. That's why I like Minnesota in this one. He was pissed. He was pissed at the Cardinals for how things ended there in Arizona. I think he plays.
You like them to cover, not to win.
I like both.
Wow. There you go. One last thing I had for you. Cardinals defense this past week against Todd Downing's Tennessee Titans. First in EPA per play. Was the most impressive, most efficient defense of any team in week one. Is that a fact or fiction? Can you expect this Cardinals team to continue to have, a top of the line defense, or against better offenses, this thing's going to fall?
Yeah, they can get after quarterbacks. That helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That mitigates a lot of issues on the back end. The confidence to jump on a double move when you know you'll have time, or when you know that if it is a double move, your pass rush is going to get home, is invaluable for a cornerback.
Yeah.
That being said, I still think there are issues in this secondary. It's still not as good as they, survived against Tennessee, and that you're facing a damn good group of wide receivers here this week too.
Titans at Seahawks. Speaking of Todd Downing.
Oh no, go in.
Seahawks are 5.5 point favorite. I'm not going to go in. I already said what I had to say. Todd Downing called a terrible game. He called a terrible game in week one. A.J. Brown and Julio Jones didn't have a target until deep into the second quarter, and they ran the lowest rate of play action of any team in the NFL. That is a terrible game. Mm-hmm. I don't care about game script at all. That is a bad game. For this one, they're traveling to Seattle. Seattle's 5.5 point favorites, and Seattle's offensive coordinator is calling quite the opposite. Ton of play action, getting shots open to Tyler Lockett down the field. Chris Carson playing really well. The Seattle defensive line you talked about was one of the more impressive performances in week one. I like Seattle to win and cover the number. I have no faith in Tennessee right now.
I do love Shane Waldron's offense, man. What he brought over and just the way they looked against Indianapolis. It was Moneyball offense. It was dink and dunk, pop you over the top. It was take what's there, home runs. It was like the NBA version of layups and 3-pointers. And that's the personnel that they have there is to do that, is going to succeed with that. And that's where Russell Wilson succeeds. So, man, I do love it, but I do think it is a tad bit of an overreaction line. Just a touch.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I still like Seattle to win. Cover, 5.5. Yeah, I'll pick them to cover that too.
I don't think any team in PFF's power rankings fell further after week one than Tennessee. Tennessee took a massive spill after week one and after what we saw. And a lot of me wants to continue to fade this Titans team. If they cover this number, it would impress me. Like I said, I'm taking Seattle -5.5. I think Seattle wins this game. But starting out 0-2, you see those stats all the time about these 0-2 starts and how difficult it is to get in the playoffs after that skid. It's a 17-game season now. The math changes. But, man, this Titans team faces a tough schedule for the rest of the year outside of their division. I'm interested to see. I'm interested to see. I still think they're the favorite. They are the market favorite to win the division, and I would still pick them to win the division. But people talking about Super Bowl there with Julio Jones wearing the number 2 and stuff, I don't know. I think Todd Downing might be holding the cape back. All right, Cowboys at Chargers. This I think is going to be one of the best games of the weekend. This game is going to be freaking phenomenal. Chargers are favored by 3 in LA at SoFi. How fi SoFi? Justin Herbert looking like the real deal. Chris Collinsworth was talking to me recently about how good he looked. He's in the office today. Like, I really do. I said this on the review show. If I came out of week one with any like legitimate confidence, no overreaction, I think this Los Angeles Chargers team is legit. Yeah. I think Brandon Staley is legit. He's plus 1,000 to win Coach of the Year. I think Derwin James is back when healthy, plus 1,600 to win Defensive Player of the Year. I am all in on this Chargers team. I'll say it right now. I'm all in.
Yeah. The biggest, I think, deciding factor here is, does Randy Gregory play and does DeMarcus Lawrence play?
DeMarcus Lawrence isn't playing.
He's not.
I don't think, not for sure, but from all I've seen so far, don't quote me. I don't know for sure, but from all I've seen so far, it does not look fucking good.
Foot injury Wednesday at practice.
Yeah.
Randy Gregory on the COVID list. Both those guys don't play. They don't touch Justin Herbert. They're having a repeat of last week where it's like, hey, we better score every goddamn time we touch the ball or else we're in trouble. And they lucked out by forcing a few key turnovers, a few lucky turnovers even, you might say. But that's what it's going to take for them to win, in my opinion, this game. So I like the Chargers.
Looking at Michael Gelkin, Dallas Cowboys reporter, he's saying there is real concern about Cowboys defensive end DeMarcus Lawrence availability for the Chargers on Sunday. Suffered a foot injury on Wednesday. I do think there's going to be some concern. Yeah, all right. That would suck. The other thing I have here, I've obviously professed my love for the Los Angeles Chargers, Justin Herbert, Brandon Staley, and company. Any interest?
You got to play. I will just say this. Those guys are out. You got to play Michael Parsons defensive end.
Yes.
It's your only chance.
I like that.
That's your only chance of getting pressure on the quarterback.
And then you could put Jabril Cox on the field. I mean, you have linebacker depth.
That's the thing. You got linebacker for days. You honestly might even just start Mike Parsons. Like, if you didn't want him to be obviously a linebacker of the future, that's where you draft him. But, dude, put Tristan Wirfs in a spin
Rashawn Slater versus Micah Parsons would be awesome. Absolutely incredible. Can we see just a little bit? Just a little bit? Who are you taking in this game? Did I miss your pick?
On third downs, they literally have to have him coming at the passer. That's your best pass rusher. I'm taking the Chargers, though, if that really is the case. No Herbert.
Unfortunate for the Dallas Cowboys, as much as I hyped them up after week one, going down 0-2 is going to be a struggle. They are in a bad division. I said this before the show, and I told you this. The best bet in the NFL right now, even with this loss, and maybe you wait for them to lose to the Chargers and then bet it, they're plus 135 to win the division. That plus 135 to win this division. I don't see Washington win this with Taylor Heineke under center. I don't see Philadelphia coming back. They're plus 250. I don't see the Giants winning this one. So I'm interested to see people countering that bet. I like plus 135. And as we drive through Pennsylvania,
they are currently in last place. So just saying,
stop.
They are.
All right. Before we get to Chiefs at Ravens, Western Southern, proud sponsor of the Tailgate Podcast. In these uncertain times, life is full of questions. Like, when should I start thinking about life insurance? But however difficult these questions may be, Western Southern can help you answer them. Backed by over 130 years of experience, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind. Western Southern Financial Group, life insurance, retirement, and investments. On to last few games here. Chiefs at Ravens, Sunday Night Football. Chris is going to be calling the game. Ravens are 3.5-point dogs at home. And honestly, I am a huge fan of KC in this game. I like KC minus 3.5. I don't even think this is an overreaction to what we had. I think this Chiefs team is going to beat up on teams that, more often than not. And I think Ravens are in line next.
Yeah, it's the Ravens tackles. That's terrifying. And it was to the point where Alejandro Villanueva at right tackle, it doesn't matter who goes against him, like, he's going to lose. Like, it doesn't matter if it is. And now whoever it is for the Chiefs, he's going to be losing just because he is not comfortable on the right side. So that to me is the scary thing. And then Ryan Stanley did not look like Ryan Stanley, did not look back healthy after what he tore his ACL last year. I believe that to me is like, it's difficult to run a consistent offense when your tackles are that bad. Tackles are pass protection. Yeah. So when you have to score 70-ish% of your drives to beat the Chiefs, and you have those tackles, I don't see it, man. I don't see it.
Chris Jones lining up at edge, too. He's going to be eaten against Stanley and Alejandro Villanueva. One more question here. You like the Chiefs, minus 3.5. Panic button on the Ravens. Could start out the season 0-2. Browns look like a juggernaut. Where are you at with the Ravens right now?
Yeah, it's worth hovering over it. That was a game where you really had to come out with it. But and because your division is going to be there's not going to be an easy. There's no layup in there. They could go 2-4 in your division. That wouldn't even be a surprise. So definitely hovering.
Last game, Monday Night Football, should be a barn burner. Detroit Lions at the Green Bay Packers. Packers favored by 11.5. I'll say
finally get to see the Packers play a game of football. Oh yeah,
I can't wait. I'll say this. This is a big bounce back week.
After they took week one off. After they took week one off.
They took a bye in week one.
Bye week. You get to rest up, not try too hard, not worry about the fourth quarter. That was great. So now you should be fresh. You get a full week to prepare for the Lions. 11.5 point line. I don't even want to make a pick here. I can't do this. I can't.
Fair.
This is all.
Don't make a pick then. Don't make a pick.
That was one of the most demoralizing games from start to finish that I've seen as a Packer fan in my 31 years of being a Packers fan.
31. Congratulations. I forgot you're 31. All right. I'm taking Green Bay minus 11.5. I think this is a bounce back game for every single person in a Green Bay Packers uniform, including yourself if you wear the jersey again. The bigger question for me is there's 2 left tackle questions coming up for these teams. Taylor Decker coming back from injury. What do they do about Penei Sewell? And then Elgton Jenkins, David Bakhtiari coming back from injury. Obviously, that one's a little bit more interesting because David Bakhtiari is awesome.
Yeah.
Where would you lean with both those decisions? Because you've talked a big game about Elgton Jenkins.
Elgton just play at right tackle. He looked good at right tackle too. That guy has played. So he played left tackle was actually the problem, or should have been the problem for him because he had played more right tackle than left tackle in college. But I think the fact that he played center, and center, your footwork is varied, your hand usage is varied with how you're sliding and whatnot compared to tackle, to where that dude could basically play anywhere on the offensive line to be good. So I think it's pretty easy. David Bakhtiari slots in at left tackle. Elgton Jenkins kicks over to the right side. Those are your tackles of the future.
What a slam dunk
Sign
pick for
Elgton
Packers.
Jenkins.
I mean, Elgton
Fantastic.
Jenkins, my goodness.
Yes. Now, Lions, a lot tougher there. That one, I don't know what the fuck to do because you have 2 very good tackles. I mean, how Penei Sewell looked out the gate, for that to be your first start as a rookie tackle in the NFL, he's going to be damn good at left tackle. Now, is he going to be good at right tackle? TBD. You would hope so in time. You have, 4 or 5 years to develop it. I think it should theoretically happen, but he's good at the left side. That's where you drafted him. That's where he played at Oregon. That's where he looked good week 1. He looked like shit right tackle. Now, Taylor Decker, though, you have him signed through 2024. He is not like he's already what you wanted when you draft a tackle in the first round. Like, that is, congrats. You hit the lottery, not the lottery, but like that, it was a successful pick. You have a very good left tackle. So do you risk screwing him up, flipping him to the right side? If me being how I feel about it, Penei Sewell's, I call him one of the best tackle prospects I've ever seen. I'd keep Penei Sewell left tackle and say, hey, Taylor, we're paying you a lot of money. Be a professional here. Let's work on that kick slide on the right.
Some people were saying, I saw on Twitter, like, why they even pick him, and maybe they should have passed on him if they wanted to play him at right tackle. I feel like that's kind of out. That's reaching. If he's that good, I still take him regardless of where I plan to play him, at left or right tackle. But like, do you think they should have avoided him because they knew they had to play him at right?
No, I think I disagree with that, especially with where the Lions are as a franchise. You don't pass on if you think that guy's the most talented player, and far and away. And shit, I did at that point in the draft. Pick him. So
yeah. All right, that's off of the NFL Week 2 preview. The one thing I'll add on the Cowboys game, we're speculating on what injury the DeMarcus Lawrence had and whether or not he played. Just confirmed by 105.3 The Fan, broken foot for DeMarcus Lawrence. So he's definitely not playing in Sunday's game. We'll be out for the foreseeable future. That is a huge blow for a guy that dominated against Tristan Wirfs in the Bucs in Week 1. That sucks to see. Absolutely sucks to see. All right, we're on to our college football Week 3 primer. This is where we're going to look
still
at
like Cowboys plus 125?
Yeah, I still do. Right. DeMarcus Lawrence not changing that line, and it's plus 135.
They dropped Micah Parsons down to defensive end.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that's stupid. I think you should tweet that right now. You got the time. Send it. I like him at linebacker though too. Oh wow, you're a piece of shit. All right, college football Week 3 primer. We're gonna look at some games to watch, some prospects to watch, some matchups to watch, and then our trivia 6-pack at the back end there. Let's only do 3 questions though. 3 questions and then the personal questions. Trivia's too long, man.
No, trivia's fine.
All right, fine. All right. Well, then we'll go college football Week 3 primer. Cincinnati at Indiana, 12 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. It's a big game for a Cincinnati team that's trying to make the college football playoff.
Yeah.
They're 4-point favorites on the road against Michael Penix and the Indiana Hoosiers. The prospects to watch in this one, Myjai Sanders, defensive end for Cincinnati. You also have Ahmad Gardner, or a.k.a. Sauce Gardner, cornerback for Cincinnati. People will also bring up Desmond Ridder, the quarterback for Cincinnati, but also...
Because you won't face too many... Like Indiana, as whatever, as bad as they've been, he's not going to face a lot of top defense.
And for Indiana, the name I highlighted here was Ty Freifogel, who's going to be going head-to-head with Ahmad Gardner. I think that's the matchup to watch.
That's the matchup to watch for sure. And take those points for Cincinnati. Gosh, they are just the far better team. I don't care if they're on the road.
Really? You like them over Indiana? 4 points.
Yeah.
Wow, I like it. That's hot. That's hot. Purdue at Notre Dame. I'm trying to give you a game for every slate and every hour, every part of the college football Saturday. Purdue at Notre Dame. Notre Dame favored by 7.5. If that was at 6.5, I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. I think they play at 2:30 on Saturday. Prospects to watch: George Karlaftis, defensive end for Purdue. David Bell also created really well in week 2 in college football, the wide receiver for Purdue. And then at Notre Dame, you're looking right at Michael Mayer, who Brian Kelly called one of the best tight ends he's ever coached, and Kyle Hamilton, the most versatile player Brian Kelly's ever coached. This is going to be the players to watch for Notre Dame. And also, I think Notre Dame, to prove they're not fraudulent, I want to see a blowout here.
Well, you'll have to keep waiting. I don't think we see a blowout. I am worried about this Notre Dame defense. So 7.5 points is a lot to me. But George Karlaftis, Notre Dame, not the offensive line that was walked through the door last year, but still a lot of pro-style concepts, a lot of pro-pass blocking. You'll get a good handle on what Karlaftis can do. Yeah,
I'm excited. I'm probably most excited to watch Karlaftis in that matchup. We'll be rooting for Jeff Brohm in Purdue, though. I am on it. I'm on it. I want to see Notre Dame fall. I want to see them fall.
We're not friends.
Alabama at 3:30. I guess I kind of cheated on that slate, but they play Florida. They're 15-point favorites on the road. There's a ton of prospects.
Still prospects.
Yeah, anytime Alabama plays, they're a team to watch because you got John Mechie going against Kaiir Elam. Kaiir Elam, by the way, an otherworldly start to this season. He is playing like a monster. Looks really physical for Florida, the cornerback they have there.
He was CB2 for us.
CB2. Some other names to know: Zachary Carter and Brenton Cox going against the man, the myth, the legend, the monster. I'm going to throw a monster in there too. Evan Neal, who has been another guy that started off really well.
Carter's the one I really want to see against Neal. So Zachary Carter having sort of a breakout kind of year. He's about 290 pounds, 6'4", 290. He's a big boy. Wins with power. So it's a lot of beef meeting up when he'll go up against Evan Neal.
I like that. Last one here, Emory Jones versus Alabama D. Are you sure you're not going to see some Anthony Rich?
That's what I was going to say. For as long as you do see Emory Jones, you'll get a good handle on what he's really bringing to the table, which may not be much.
Also, I am betting the South Carolina Gamecocks plus 31.5 against Georgia. And I love Georgia. Georgia's the second best team in the country. 7:00 start. I
still love Georgia's offense.
I don't love Georgia's offense. I think South Carolina comes in. They have a lot of talent on the defensive line. Georgia's offensive line is in, and it's not just Kingsley and Agbury. They have a lot of talent along the defensive line. I think this is going to be, hopefully, because I don't want to watch a blowout at 7. Hopefully, we're going to be watching Auburn, Penn State. We're going to Penn State. But still, South Carolina at Georgia, I like them to cover 31.5. And I also want to watch Kingsley and Agbury versus Jamari Saylor for the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah, and Jordan Strawn as well. The Georgia State transfer, I want to say. I'm probably getting that wrong. But the transfer, those two ends there for South Carolina are problems. So those will be good matchups.
Couple more games here. Coastal Carolina versus Buffalo. Grayson McCall.
Low-key matchup here.
Low-key.
Yeah, go ahead.
Which I love to see. Grayson McCall, highest graded quarterback in the FBS from a clean pocket so far this year. Also running the football well for Coastal Carolina. Jamie Chadwell to USC. You heard it here first.
That'd be sick.
That would be sick.
His offense is
cool.
Innovative.
It's hashtag fun to watch.
You're not wrong. You ain't lying.
We have some great fun to watches.
We got a chock full.
Oh my goodness! Can't wait for next week. All right, Isaiah Likely versus Gaddafi Wright for Buffalo.
The tight end Isaiah Likely could be a day 2 tight end. Athlete, obviously not much of an inline blocker. Plays a lot, splits out wide a lot for them. But Gaddafi Wright, he's playing more. He was their overhang linebacker for the past couple years. Playing more traditional linebacker this year. Fast. I'd say he runs about a 4.6, 6'4", 230. Probably going to run that range. Fan of both those guys, so that is a good matchup to watch there. 2 draftable.
The game will be at the game of the weekend.
Yes, sir. Whiteout. I'm wearing white.
Whiteout season
for it. Got the tailgate hat on too.
Oh, I see. I do too. Check me.
Love it.
All right, Auburn versus Penn State. Roger McCreary going against Jahan Dotson. Then you get Derek Hall, Rasheed Walker. I also think Tank Bigsby. He's not in the 2022 NFL draft. I get that, but I am so excited to see Tank Bigsby against this Penn State. I think Auburn wins this game. I think they're 4-point dogs on the road in the whiteout. It's going to be a freaking movie. I think it's going to be a movie. I think Steven Spielberg's showing up because I'm excited for Auburn to win this game.
Yeah. The matchup, Dotson versus Creary, will be a hashtag fun to watch one. Those guys, Dotson, crafty, kind of undersized route runner. McCreary, little undersized himself for a corner, but that'll be one they'll go back to tape. And the last one, Carson Strong versus Kansas State. This is his last one. His last Power 5 matchup of the season. The Nevada quarterback. Check him out. Big for his eval.
All the other games are probably going to be playing like 10:45. So this is on you're going to want to turn on going against Kansas State. Take a look. Carson Strong, Kansas State. Shall we get to trivia?
Let's go.
Mike Quinn, you have the questions.
I do. In full transparency, I have not really looked at these yet. So if I flub one, just bear with me.
We embrace the flub.
All right. You guys ready?
Yes.
All right. Number one, a couple weeks ago, we learned that Eli Manning was the last QB picked first overall to win a Super Bowl by the year he was drafted. Who was the last QB picked first overall to win a Super Bowl by the year he won the Super Bowl? Do you guys get what I'm saying?
I have no fucking clue.
I don't know what's going on.
By the year.
Do you want to this? I didn't write these questions. You want to go to another one?
To win the Super Bowl, just one more time through.
Yeah.
Okay. Who was the last QB picked first overall to win a Super Bowl by the year he won the Super Bowl?
I don't know. Oh, I have no idea. I get what he's saying.
You get what I'm saying? Okay.
Yeah. The last number one overall pick to win a Super Bowl, pretty much.
Okay. Before that, let's think. It was. I'll go back to John Elway.
No, more reason than that.
Peyton Manning?
Peyton Manning.
Oh shit.
2015
What
was
are you doing? You're
Broncos.
dumb? Are
Yeah,
you dumb?
I went back
All right,
to-
next question.
All right.
All right. This one, this is a layup. Well, it's a layup for me.
Oh.
Hopefully it'll be a layup for you guys too. This running back was the last running back to be picked first overall back in 1995.
Keyshawn Carter.
Yep. Layup.
I don't even know who that
Bengals.
is. Oh, it's a Bengals guy?
What was
I was 1 year old in 1995.
what was Kajana Carter's nickname?
Ooh, I don't know actually.
What was it?
Torn ACL.
No,
bad.
well, we won't say it. But it's not really his nickname.
Oh,
But,
okay.
all right. Speaking of Penn State, this is number 3. Tailgate is headed there Saturday for the whiteout game, which you guys are. After Kajana was picked first, only 3 running backs have gone second overall since. One of them was Reggie Bush in 2006. Penn State and Auburn each have one. Who are they?
Saquon Barkley.
Yeah. And then
Ronnie Brown.
Yep, nailed it.
Ronnie
Look at
Brown
that.
was number 2 overall.
Yes,
Ronnie
sir.
Brown was
Went
number
ahead of
2
Cadillac.
overall.
That's insane.
2005.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
I was
That's all
9.
got.
All right.
That's it.
My question to you, the personal know your co-host question. What sport did I play for San Diego State and lead
I
a
know
comeback
this one.
win over Cal for?
Ultimate Frisbee.
Let's go. Dude, I was dominant in
Legend.
Ultimate Frisbee. You don't want to see my shit. We were playing a little in
I
Ohio
saw
State.
you throw a frizz. You're trying to teach some girl how to throw a frisbee, and I was like, "This is not
It wasn't
neither
great.
the time
No,
nor
it
the
wasn't
place."
great. It wasn't
But
great.
you were throwing some seeds, I will say.
That's all I
was
have.
impressed.
I only have seeds.
All right, what was my primary role when I was hired at PFF?
Data collection.
But
Which data?
specifically,
Base? Or no, QB analysis?
I was player participation.
Player participation.
Literally just saying where the players were lined up on the football field.
So was I.
Electric stuff for 6 straight months. It was awesome.
I was player participation and player participation for special teams.
Oh yeah, I did that year too. And I made the mistake of being too fast at it, so they'd give me a bunch of games.
Dude, special teams player participation is an absolute grind. Shout out to the guys who do that.
But I used to have every long snapper's name memorized, so that was cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you break that out on dates or when did you leverage
Oh, I
it?
got so much play with the ladies.
All righty, that's going to do it for this episode of Tailgate. Make sure to check us out if you are at Penn State. We're going to be there. Auburn at Penn State. Reach out, send a DM to Tailgate, or my DMs are open on Twitter. However you want to reach out to us, please do. We're going to be not partying. We're going to be working all weekend long there at Penn State. Should be an absolute treat. Make sure you rate,
Also,
review.
send in mailbag questions.
Yeah.
We only had a few this week. We're going to save them till next week. Hopefully get more. Hopefully do a big segment.
Yep. Follow PFF_tailgate on Twitter. Drop a mailbag question there, or you can leave a question on Apple Podcasts. Rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Until next time, Gayle, Mike Renner, producer Max Chadwick, Dave Sofaro, Mike Quinn, Tailgate.